Good morning, afternoon, evening, people. Today I'd like to address the topic of egregores and flying monkeys. Narcissists tend to make a posse, as I've been saying, in the environment, in allegiance. This is actually a form of black magic, whether they know it or not, and quite a few of them do know it because they like to frequent people of similar nature to show their other side quite freely. It's a interesting split with these people. On one side, they'll hide and feign their goodness publicly, and in secluded places, they'll let it all out. Now, egregores is part of the strategy of polluting the environment and creating a narrative around the target. What eventually happens is that the story seeps into the environmental target, and if they are in any way inclined to this predisposition, they'll swallow the story in glee, in wanting to join the frenzy of energy. Other ones who are less boundaried and more naive will adapt and adopt these principles by unchecked emotion and a form of sentiment towards the narcissist for the suffering that they've endured or the projected suffering that they've confabulated in a want to accrue masses in a defensive and offensive strategy. Because what happens is that eventually this will poison the environment and people will start sending vibes without even speaking. Most of these people, if any of them, will directly address, but they will passive aggressively, subcutaneously coagulate and send the vibes, creating what's known as a spiritual egregore, which is a coincidence of mutual opinion, positive or negative, and this works in society too, positive or negative, that builds a massive energy that forms its own existence, basically. And this is how energetic attacks and things like that are perpetrated by the narcissist, through witting and unwitting assailants that have decided to join or by osmosis have absorbed the poison of the narrative and enact as if, because the fact of the matter is we all live in a world of perception. We see with our eyes and hear with our ears and smell with our noses, and the seeing and the hearing is very easily manipulated, especially with duration and repetition. How do we train a parrot? We put it in a cage and we stand there and we repeat things until they do what they're told, essentially, and then we say, good boy, good girl, I'm a cracker. Yeah, but they've already cracked. It's not normal. It's not a form of love, really. But yes, so personal experience with this, having watched many times over my existence of my parents doing their best to extinguish my personality in originality for the purpose of isolating me and also silencing me on a level where I understood exactly what they were doing, but to react would be giving them exactly what they wanted in that my reaction would not have halted anything, and my exposure of things would have only perpetuated the issue more deeply. And this is the subliminal threat of the narcissist: is if you expose, you're going to suffer deeply. Yes, so I learnt very early to do my best not to show emotion to these ones, and even though I was still very young, very impressionable, and also I was infiltrated with the supposition or the subliminal command of you can die if you show your originality, if you start speaking your truth, then you understand that this is what gets you on Skid Row. So these internal injunctions happen whereby, as I said, we self-contain out of a sense of false safety, when the only safety in reality is distance and or exposure. And exposures, as I say, I don't recommend it for everyone, especially women. But exposure is really, for me, only a response to unrelenting activity. This is when the egregore is reaching a further stage. This is where I see people like, from my childhood, when I was being isolated by parents in a lot of really pernicious ways. And then later on, having started to wear the stain of this experience, knowing, even though I knew it was a construct of who I was to do exactly what they wanted, which was to keep me feeling foreign to people and isolated enough not to be able to tell the story from within myself, which would create some question with people around the gap of my existence and also the sensations they would perceive from me. I can say a lot in silence, and people don't like that at times, and people don't want to hear the truth either. So it's a beautifully bound situation between a society that's already somewhat dissonant to the want to understand the reality of people's experience, and also pain. We're naturally avoidant to pain. It's natural, as I said, especially from my own experience and studies. Humanity, once traumatized, is much more inclined to avoid trauma than to go and find love, which is part of it's a narcissistic wound, and this is exactly where we meet more narcissists, as the front foot's not up, and when we're not moving in courage and presence, we're susceptible. Egregores are created to keep the target out of time, to be out of sync with self, and to be perpetually concerned with the next move, especially if one is intuitive, to prevent the other shoe from dropping, because the pattern has been set in the body and also then verified by a greater circle of people from the egregore displaying similar behaviours without words, which is leaving the subconscious with a veritable playground of anxious opportunity if one lets oneself go with it. Yes, narcissistic abuse affects the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that runs basically from your coccyx to the back of your head. Narcissistic abuse survivors will often have a lot of back pain, a lot of hip issues, root chakra issues, grounding, feeling safe, feeling okay in their body. The vagus nerve affect is actually like a brain inside the body. It's very much connected to the nervous system and the emotional body. And narcissistic abuse will affect that nerve by memory loss, by amnesia, by dissociation, by dissonance, and absorb the blow of the experience for the mind, so the mind doesn't break. But what happens in that is the flexibility and the responsibility of the body diminishes, as with the ability to process feeling. This can be, what I'll say about narcissists is the majority of them are sexually abusive. They're sexually vagrant because they have no conscience. So the only problem for a narcissist is getting caught and being exposed. It has nothing to do with any guilt about their actions. So basically the action of narcissistic abuse will separate a child, and the vagus nerve will start to tension. If there's physical abuse, there's another activation, but the ultimate one is sodomy, is penetration, as I've said before, and the nervous system and the vagus nerve reaction to that is a total loss of soul in that moment. And at that point, a lot of these narcissists actually know that they can program a person, a child, and it really doesn't matter what age, but children are instantly soul open and programmable at that point. And the mechanism that I understand in this is the whispers in the ear as the procedure, the cause, is being installed. They're also programming with words of their own affirmation of what they want at that point. Child will return or semi-return to itself, but not embody enough to recognize either the cause, the criminal act, the trauma related to it, or any of the resultant behaviours that come by way of self-protection installed by the subconscious while the program's happening. So this is the split. It's the child leaving to try and reorganise while the perpetrating input is downloading the effect that they'd like into the victim. The use of the egregore after that is to character assassinate the victim sufficiently that the secret will be safe, and also that the more that the target speaks about it, the more insane they will look, due to the narcissist's ability to switch off to reality and take favour of the narrative and live the narrative. One thing we learn about universal law in all of this is the universe doesn't really care about right or wrong. It cares about dedication, and the reason these people are able to engage in witchcraft and spiritual activity is because they are very dedicated to what they believe should happen, and they practice it very often. They live it. It's a mantra that they live, as it's the sustenance that they need to fulfill the contract that they've chosen, and also to feed whatever entities are assisting and requiring payment for said causes and effects. It's a spiritually assisted situation. There are dividends. So essentially, the narcissist is a tyrant attempting to convert a population to their version of rulership by deceit. And the more convincing they can be, and the more people they convince, the more hungry they become. Yeah, it's a really complicated game, but you understand the pattern in that the whole mechanism is basically around jealousy and envy, but the other 5 deadly sins as well. And if they can offload through the universal law their karma onto you as you're not aware, because once again, in common law, as in spiritual law, ignorance is no plea. It's not accepted. Ignorance is a form of consent in spiritual law, as it's seen in common law too, strangely enough, because they're meant to match each other in reality. But we don't live in reality. We live in a split world. And just as the target will become split, the narcissist is already split into acting, and the only other side of the acting is to self-inflate, to gloat over their ability to manipulate, destroy, confuse, and discombobulate people out of and into a concerted effort for them and away from themselves. What else have I got here? I'll have a quick look. Yeah, so the flying monkeys are the ignorant. They're the non-consenting ones. They're the ones who haven't had a good enough look inside themselves, who are easily conscripted by emotion. And narcissists are the masters of wielding emotion to suppress and also to attach. There's nothing like a great victim story with very much less than half of the story told, with a couple of crocodile tears to enforce the depth of this pain that they've created and now flipped, and are now bugling to other people and crying in their breakfast about essentially relieving themselves of the guilt of what they did by telling other people that it wasn't them. You know what I mean? And here's where we come to the old sandpit stories of, I know you are, you said you are, but what am I? And you know, whoever smelt it dealt it. And isn't it funny how we know all this stuff when we're young, and all of a sudden when we're adults it doesn't make any sense anymore. Well, this makes perfect sense, because what we're dealing with is spiritually interrupted, arrested development in human beings who are spiritually porous and have tasted the back door to receiving, which is theft, essentially. They kick your spiritual door in while telling you they love you, and leave you destitute. So yeah, ignorance is actually what they love. And that's why when the empath will start to wake up, they will really see exactly what they've been up against. And funnily enough, a lot of empaths walk around with the terror about this exact thing, which is amnesia. And then upon experiencing it themselves, they once again separate from self, because it's unbelievable. It's dislocating to have to conceive that someone is so rotten in their soul, and flights of fantasy would come around, a sense of overinflating things, while at the same time not wanting to minimize the emotional impact that they're feeling, which has been a low-level terror sitting in the subconscious, which would A, prevent them from meeting the people they want to meet, and B, have them more susceptible to the ones that they're trying to avoid in not wanting to meet the good ones, as familiarity plays a big part in this experience. And I'm fascinated by this word familiarity, because it really is a split word too, because familiar would involve the fact that you're talking about family, or that which would be attributed to family, and familiar is also an addictive process. People drink, people smoke, people get into bad relationships because they know no different than the familiarity of that wavelength, of that motion, of that activity. And the nervous system actually becomes quite addicted to the adrenalization of discombobulation. So it becomes an addiction to ignorance, aided by a fundamentally gut-propelled mind chemical funk out by familiarity of a trauma-based response that hasn't been properly detected due to familiarity, due to not having an experience of its absence to have a polarity to work from. So it's a very tricky one, in that endorphins are also involved in this experience of bonding, having been affected by narcissistic, I can't call it love, by narcissism, enacted as love, creating a chemical warfare in the mind between the dopamine and the cortisol and the noradrenaline, as somewhere within the inner child it still recognizes that that was the formula that was offered to some degree, being a conditional love based upon performance and offering, which is sacrifice. If of not the person, then of the person's skill, in order to receive a sense of their own worth. So it's actually an outer informed form of self-prostitution, uninformed, but programmed, which is amnesia. People are enacting behaviours that would directly affect their inner child in order to either wake it up or to suffer another loop of ignorance, amnesia-based ignorance, which is actually a war of the chemicals of the mind as the gut loses culture, as the gut loses the capability to manufacture the chemicals, which we've all been told are mind chemicals, and they're not. They're built in the gut, and the gut's the first thing to go when you're under stress. But the first thing you feel is your mind, because your gut is not making the chemicals. Let's get the car where the car should be and put the horse first on this stuff. That was all backwards, that was crap, and that was a good reason for us all to go and get these filthy pills and to destroy our own homeostasis of our body to self-repair by creating a feeling of amnesia through synthetic chemicals on top of the imbalance of the organic chemical combinations going on within the break-in homeostasis of the organism. So it's basically like saying eating a handful of plastic's going to block something, and it will. It's probably not good though, because that which can't be reached already in affect of some sort of tranquilizer, which is essentially what a lot of these mind-altering antidepressants are, medications. And then there's a stacking of emotion which ages like rotten meat, that can't be processed because of people's fear, deep fear that they're not going to get to the core of what it is that's been chewing them. What would cause that in any person? Because they can't get to the answer that satisfies their soul of what actually happened and what the mechanism was that created this situation. And also, as I said, just a fundamental disbelief in humanity. We weren't meant to perpetually experience stress and loss and rush and all this stuff. It's a mechanism of control that helps us also not process feeling and make the right decisions for ourselves in correction of what wasn't taught and what was also ingested through ignorance and through a lack of filter or ability to filter in the exposure, which was very controlling, really. Children aren't meant to get to 4 or 5 years old and leave their parents and go to a preschool and go and sit in their most active years of their life for 6 hours a day on their bums, staring at someone talking. That's programming. They should be out running, getting their gut biome working and not using their brain so much, because intelligence comes from being more of you, from relaxation, from enjoyment, not from stuffing it in like, it's tattooing yourself with this rubbish to be acceptable or to be measured as of greater function or lesser function. I never really tried at school because I knew that there was something much bigger for me than listening to this bullshit, this history, this algebra, this bloody, all those old people's writings, and I was basically just sitting there thinking, well, how does this help me in any way? Looking at everybody else's bloody mistakes and looking and listening to what I'm to assume is fact, is real, without question. Sounds a bit narcissistic, doesn't it? Yeah. And I wonder why I had a little bit of issue with education. It's because it's a tool of manipulation. And narcissists are in education in brainwashing, in amnesia, and in how to dupe a soul and receive great joy from it, and to also to sequester other people into it in assistance of secrecy, and also in assistance of feeding from the egregore that's created, from the fantasy that's created and shared by these people. And the witchcraft aspect, I know these people have to vent. I've actually exposed full-blown dark triad, narcissist coven members, saying to them, I know what you do. I know your computer's full of your trophies, because there's certain people that you sit there and gleefully talk about how your spells, your intentions were successful, and how affected someone may be. And they're shocked when I say this, because it's true. It's no different to the Psycho movies. They love their little trophies. They love their little... They sit there and gloat over how they've destroyed people, or how they've duped people, or how they're going to dupe people, or... Another one of these moments I had over this time was learning about the Hydra, which is, and there's a lot of this stuff in this myth too, I'll tell you. The Hydra was an animal that had 7 heads, or 9 heads, 7 heads I think it was. Yeah, the 7 deadly sins. What do you know? Here we go. And the Hydra, if you cut its head off, it grew 2 more back. And this is where I walked into this dark void journey, was understanding that the only way that I could destroy this Hydra was to climb inside it, and to sit there in the belly of the beast and understand it, while it tried to digest me, consume me, and it didn't work. So yes, to defeat the Hydra is to learn thought and emotion, and to learn perseverance and patience and relentlessness and presence, and knowing that a lot of the time any thought you're having that isn't advantageous for you is not you. It's not you. And the moment you assign meaning to it being anything about you, you have consented to it by ignorance. And this is one thing I've learned about narcissism and witchcraft, is that since I was a little boy, I've said to people, I wouldn't say that to myself. People are like, we're schizophrenic, this and that and something else. No, this is discernment. Yeah? This is what destroys mental illness, is discernment, is understanding to separate oneself from the thoughts, because they're not my thoughts. They're not my thoughts. I know when I'm making my thoughts and they don't attack me. Yeah? So as soon as they are my thoughts, I'm attacking myself. This is also spiritual law, and this is the really important one to learn. especially about egregores, because a lot of the time when these people get together and talk about you, an empath will feel the energy coming. And even since I've been doing these videos, I've been feeling it coming. And I'm aware. And I slow down. And I feel. And I separate myself from the observer. I'm one behind the observer. Because the observer is also affected. You see? Because this is still perception. Observer is perception. Behind the observer is reality of perception of supposed reality. So it's a babushka doll of stepping back, stepping out, recognition of one's want for trajectory and one's want for clarity versus, but not excluding, whatever comes in adversity to that experience, and to not align, to understand what a foreign body is, as much as one had to learn what a narcissist is. It's a foreign body. It's a foreign body invading your system. And the biggest problem most narcissistic targets suffer is that they are still feeling the impact of these people's egregores, of their words, of their intentions, and taking it personally, which would lean towards the fact that they have been duped about love, essentially, because no person that loves you will treat you that way. Full stop. There are no mistakes. And accidents usually come with a sincere and heartfelt sorry. And all these things will be absent in these situations. So, to objectify the narcissist is very important, because when you stop being personal about these things that have no person, essentially they've given up their person. They are all fabricated personality. All of it. You get to the bottom, there's nothing there. So, to realign with oneself is to crucify the narcissist in your mind in terms of energetically, and to crucify the detritus, the malware that one has adopted in one's own vocab and voice as personality, knowing that personality is only a protection mechanism from trauma. They're attacking my personality. Well, personality is all they've got to attack, because it's a construct. So if we look at this positively and we take it from an alchemic point of view, we understand that what they're doing is they're pushing us towards authenticity if we do it the right way. And we, in turn, also push them towards authenticity by becoming authentic. This is the alchemy. The trap is, as I said, the barrel of crabs, bucket of crabs, where they don't want you getting up because you're remembering of who you are. Not so much what they did, but that's important too, because that's part of coming out of ignorance and into acceptance of reality. Accepting who you are, and also understanding how strong you have to be to wade through this stuff, and to separate yourself from the identity that has been tattooed into the energy around you, and that you can only fail by feeding that energy, by accepting, consenting, and mulling over it, by looping this junk, which is actually propaganda, total propaganda. And but its effect when when ingested early, as I said, the filter's broken by this experience itself because it's untenable, it's unprocessable, it's against spiritual law. And every child is very close to spirit. They know, apart from their judgment, is generally to either speak up in innocence or self-absent or to self-abandon in the knowledge that there's an inner injunction happening, and there's also an injunction in the environment which has created it. So if the injunction is created in the environment, then it is absorbed over being alchemized as a lifestyle, as an unavoidable, as a have to do, so it gets pushed into the subconscious. What else about egregores? When you see the flying monkeys, and I'm very intuitive, I always was, that's why I've been through this trouble. When you see them and you see them projecting their stuff towards you, you have a choice at that point to re-victimize, why me, or you can become congruent and acknowledge exactly what's happening. And the reason that I ended up expelling most people from my life, if not nearly everyone, very close, I was alone on the earth, the people who are willing to listen to this story are their own answer. That's the filter working. See, we go into great pain about, oh no, not this one, and oh, now they've believed it. And I just sit there now and go, well, there's another person I don't need to know. Self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not going to cry about it because the narcissist has just done me a favour by cleaning up my environment through the smear campaign with the flying monkeys. It's fantastic, you know. And that's why I can sit in the middle of a bunch of people. I can feel the judgment from a lot of people because I don't give anything away. I don't tell people who I am. I don't need to self-promote or self-justify. And I'm just learning why I want to be around people again, to be honest. But and I've been really okay with that. I've done a lot of really good healing, just saying I've learnt not to need people. And I'm learning to want them instead. And I'm learning to correct my own entry, having been taught by people bereft of the basic principles of humanity. So yeah, I've actually, while I've lamented the memory of togetherness, which was a memory, and it really was, given the information I've just told you. So this is a perception, right? Sad that I'm alone, but I was alone the whole time. That's the truth. All I'm doing is missing a habit of being around people to avoid myself, when I was already avoiding myself anyway. So I've had to reverse engineer this thing to come back to myself, to even to a point of recognizing at times when I think, I wonder what people think about me in my self-encapsulation. And I have to say, I don't really care, because I've achieved what modern psychiatry and medicine and life coaches and spiritual healers and could ever have done for me, by taking my time and sitting with myself and re-regulating myself, by learning the basic emotions, and by grieving this experience, this confusion, which is been very purposeful. And betrayal's a really hard one to get over. But the big one with this amnesia is in the absence of presence, in the self-abandonment, one accrues a lot of guilt for self-abandonment while not even conscious of what not abandoning is. This is amnesia. This is dissonance. This is leaving the scene of the crime the moment the emotion, the unhealed emotion, unprocessed emotion pops up. And the person's incapacity to take a deep breath or 5 and sit in the feeling without making noises. Because a lot of that time that we're making those noises, we are justifying the wound without any processing from within. We are looking for security from without, for succor, which is exactly what the narcissist wants. They want the succor. They want you to beg for your sanity, for your innocence, which they have in their head. So, yeah, the egregores are very real, and we see it in the entertainment industry and modelling industry, and even in politics. People create egregores. That MAGA thing was an egregore. Freemasonry is an egregore. Eastern Star Witches is an egregore. The Rotary Club is an egregore. Mormons are an egregore. All religions are an egregore. The legal system is an egregore. They're all around us. It's an energetic body created by intention by a lot of people, at tension and intention, being IN/tension. And the intention is where the money's made, is where the energy is stolen. Nat. So yeah, it was one of those ones that popped into my head a couple of years ago out of the blue, and I thought I'll check this one out amongst the Hydra and quite a few other things. And very real, very real. As we've seen with Taylor Swift's Swiftards, or whatever you call them, the Swift kicking the bums. Totally, I investigated that egregore for a little while, and the dissent and the hatred that came towards me was superhuman. It was I will stick my head in the rabbit trap every now and then just to have a feel, and that was powerful. And I've had egregores on places like Facebook where gangs of people have had a bit of a go at me, and that's been very interesting because I've felt that palpably too. I know when there's a point to cut off because it's really toxic. They're playing with spirit, they're not just playing with words. So yeah, to understand how these people get together, and that's why I've, initially I saw early on how my mother used to conscript people, and then when I saw her conscript my ex-wife, I thought that knocked me out of the amnesia a lot. I just went, ooh, spicy. It was very painful at the time. I got over it because I know they're non-human, so. But yes, I've dealt with a lot of egregores since. And it's been quite interesting, upsetting the Freemasons has been quite. Hey, trying to do something, you're going. Off you go. Go on. Go on. Go on. Sorry, they won't even fly away. Patting a baby on the chest, trying to push him away, and he's just enjoying it. Egregores. Eh? I've got a kookaburra egregore here, reminding me to laugh. I should listen more. I'm trying. Some would say I'm very trying. But yeah, no, the egregores, yeah. Once you understand the secrets of this stuff, they seem to pop up everywhere. And the more you shine your light, the more moths you attract. And you have to see them as moths, because otherwise it's just a perpetual victim story of why me. Why me is because I've got a strong light, and I could read people. Hey, come on! I could read people early, and I had that terrorised, beaten and drowned out of me before I was 3. But I was smart enough not to drink my mother's breast milk when I popped out. That's how switched on I was. I knew where I was coming to, and where I'd been for 9 months, learning about the environment that I was just about to be born into. And now I understand that I've been fighting egregores all my life. And the amnesia is the very thing that keeps the egregore going, because it's a physical disbelief made psycho-spiritual. And often it's perpetrated by people who want a backdoor into your existence for the rest of time. Because as soon as that vagus nerve is affected, the programming is in action, especially with sodomy, sexual abuse. It's basically a magnet wipe for the nervous system, and then the nervous system will instantly, as the brain can't filter because the soul's not present, the body will accept the information as verbatim into the subconscious, but including all the resistance with our presence. So this is part of the amnesia, is the organism is turned on itself around the fact that the truth may cause injury and or death, as it's been perceived as that before in the subconscious. And the threat of that potential in the conscious is a threat to life itself without even the act, because then the nervous system is reenacting the hidden perpetration without any navigation or regulation. And that is a lot of what causes people's mental breakdowns, if they're not aware and observing the experience rather than becoming it. The narcissist's ultimate goal is for you to become the experience that they project on you, which is why they revel in your dilapidation, because the more dilapidated you become, the more their story stands, and the safer they become in their promiscuity and impropriety. They feel like they're closer to getting out of jail free while having committed the ultimate crime. Yes, so the egregores. Spiritual activity is real, and a lot of these people, I will say, while some of them are quite intelligent in IQ, I have seen the most ridiculously stupid people be so extremely manipulative that I've actually said to them, this isn't you. You're not smart enough for this. You're really not. And I'll own that I'm pretty smart. I've got pretty high IQ. And I can see it's not them. They're too doughy. They're too stupid. There is an egregore running them which they consent to, because there are payoffs being the energetic transfer of destiny, and the offloading of all karma by evidence, by a person's breakdown of the fact that their story is the narrative. So it's a good game. It really is. And to tell you the truth, I don't see this as any different to a legal case. That's where I grew up, and it's about who's the best liar. Apart from in this situation, only one person can tell the truth, and only the truth will proffer. And until that person can tell the truth, they're going to suffer the narrative of this person's vampirism of personality and self-abdication of responsibility for choices purposefully enacted to harm. That is a psychopath. And I see more and more in society that these behaviours are becoming acceptable. There's always some ridiculous excuse, which is, as we'll see with the narcissists over time, becomes more flimsy by their being drunk on power. They become quite insane and tyrannical. They actually start to lose their faculty, and I think we'll see a lot of this over the next little while with our leaders and with various other high level players, because they're all part of the same game. They really are. Narcissism is a game that once again, as I've said in the domestic, is in the business world, and there are conferences for these people who will make allies to take out opponents. I'll call it business. It's the same thing. It really is. It's all just propaganda for how to be an asshole and how to make it taste sweet while it's happening. It's the shit sandwich. Shit and sugar. So I think I've spoken enough. My longest video so far, but it's a really important one, because the more people that are amassed in a sense of surety in their perception, the more energy is created around these situations. And a perception isn't a knowing. A perception is just that. It's the first stage. It's the infantile reception without processing. So what we'll find with these narcissists and also the flying monkeys is that they are severely arrested in their development, and most of them are still stuck in an emotional age of 8, 5, whenever it happened. And really, that part is stuck whenever it happened. Could be 2. It wasn't me. And I also saw how I was conscripted as a flying monkey. Not that my integrity was too strong, but I also saw the nuances of me protecting my detractors in a want to form allegiance for safety, not for progression with them. It was it was fawning is what it was. It was my version of them offering me to become a Auschwitz guard, and me sitting on the fence being spat on and encouraged to cross the line, which I have never and will never do. And I'm really proud of myself for that. It's taken a lot not to be like them, but I know it breaks spiritual law anyway, so this has been a mission where not only am I expunging all this crap, I'm learning how to do life properly with the hardest players, with the nasty ones first, and then hey, Wyatt, trying to do something. Yeah. Remembering nature, speaking from heart, and remembering that all this societal bullshit around us being nice is a program. We're not put here to be nice, we're put here to be real. Yeah? Because if we can't be real, what is nice? Nice is a personality thing to be accepted. And with this beautiful shower, I'm going to accept leaving. Love you people. Be well. Cheers.